Google wants to be a part of communities, organizations, and really education in general. And they've made that pretty clear with all of their offerings. So what you should know about google.com/edu, of Google in Education they call it, is that they really have a couple different scenarios designed for nonprofits and communities as well as schools, districts, and institutions. So this quick modern lesson is really geared towards school principals, school administrators, anybody that really makes the decisions at schools and is willing to invest in technology. So Google really wants your attention, and I'm here to just to show you how they are asking for it. So really you can go to Google in Education, click on 4 organizations, and it'll bring you here. Pretty empty landing page, if I don't say so myself, but you can watch this cute video. It's only a couple minutes long, and it really talks about how they have put more than $100 million into schools, nonprofits, and are really pursuing an active agenda for things like STEM education, girls' education, and empowerment through technology. And that's great, but what we want to focus on is how you, the Modern Lessons student, can use Google in education. So the key thing you should do is click on for nonprofits and communities or for school districts and institutions. We're going to start with the latter, school districts and institutions, and you can see a lot of these links are similar to what I showed you in the previous Modern Lesson, which was all about Google in education for teachers. So when it comes to the schools and districts and institutions, Google has a few things that you should know about. Google Apps, they really want you to get tied into, which is basically using things like Google Drive in your classroom, but having it branded, for your school using your logo and all that stuff. And it's a really great tool for cash-strapped schools or organizations or communities. And Google does a lot to make sure that you get the most out of it. And I definitely recommend it, or at least recommend considering it if you're currently using a more expensive option, because Google Apps are free and they really just want to get you tied in to get you into the Google ecosystem. So I would recommend checking out Google Apps for Education and Google Apps for Higher Education. So that's a way for them to host all your email and to host all of your collaboration applications, they call it, which is really just code for Google Drive. But they have a few other things that are great. So let's look at those. YouTube for Schools. We showed you a little bit of that in the previous lesson, but YouTube for Schools is really just an awesome place to find a lot of school-safe videos. So they're all educational. They're from places like Stanford, PBS, and TED. They have Khan Academy on there and Numberphile and all kinds of great stuff. So I'd recommend checking those out. And they also do a little bit talking about Chromebooks, which are those laptops that you are probably considering instead of an Apple iPad or in addition to. But Chromebooks are basically made to be used if you have a reliable internet connection. So if Wi-Fi is not something your school is very strong at, I don't think Google Chromebooks are for you. But I don't know each individual school, so I'm just saying that. They also talk a little bit about what they do for students here, which is pretty good. They do a computer science for high school course, essentially, where they come in and will help you do computer science workshops, which is great for secondary schools. So that's definitely worth checking out. I also wanted to go back and click on for nonprofits and communities. And this is the last thing we'll just show you. And as you can see, a lot of this stuff is sort of similar, just rebranded for nonprofits and communities, but it's very similar to the stuff you find for schools. So Google for US nonprofits or Google Apps for nonprofits and all that good stuff is very similar. It's just a little bit different. So let's click on Google Apps for US nonprofits. It's less about, STEM programs or improving women's access to education. Instead, it's actually a little bit more basic and more about helping nonprofits raise money, how to help them do better things, either internally or externally. So, for example, they show you this nonprofit that brings water to a place in Africa, I'm going to presume, judging by the clothing. But really it just shows you that their apps are built to help any kind of nonprofit do a little bit better. So you can also do a few other things like check out their videos and stuff, but we're less interested in the marketing and more interested in actual ways this can help. And I'd say those two things are these last two things right here. So what you can do is a Google grant, which is literally, it lets you apply for getting Google advertising. You see them all over the web, those little Google ad blocks. That's how Google makes its money. But did you know you could get those for free if you're a nonprofit? That's pretty awesome. So check out Google Grants. I'll just load it up to show you real quick. But basically, you can get up to $10,000 worth of free advertising, which is amazing. What you can also do is disable ads on your custom search engine, which is great. So if you have a custom search engine and you run a nonprofit, you can take all the ads off of your custom search engine, which is really good, especially if you use it on your organization website. It makes it appear as though you are actually a nonprofit and not just, someone who wants to make a few extra bucks using Google AdSense. So those are the last two things that I want to touch on. The most important, I would say, being Google Grants. I think that's really cool and an innovative idea. It's been around for a while, but definitely check it out if you're running a nonprofit. And that goes for schools, districts, and institutions too. So check it out. A lot of great stuff for Google apps for organizations.